Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to Open Mic here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an awesome honor and a privilege to have you guys joining me here today, as it is every day as we talk about our favorite things. And here on Open Mic, it's just an open virtual water cooler where we're just a bunch of friends standing around talking about our favorite things, and that's what we're going to do. Look, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention what a night in mixed martial arts last night. First of all, you got Ryan Bader. I've always been a big Ryan Bader fan, and I was bummed when he left the UFC, but now he's in Bellator. 15-second knockout of King Mo. That was amazing. But oh my gosh, one of my favorite fighters to ever watch is Lyoto Machida. And he had this match against former champion Vitor Belfort. Knocked him out with that, just put his lights out with that straight front kick like he did to like my mentor Randy Couture. But oh my God, great fight, great night of MMA fights last night, guys. Anyway, we're not here to talk about MMA. We are here to talk about movies and some television, entertainment stuff, all that kind of stuff all around. So let's not waste any time. Let's dive into it. And we go into our first question today. That comes to us from John DeMoto, who writes, "Good morning, John. Good morning, everybody. Looks like Avengers Infinity War to be around 1.6 billion after this weekend. 2 billion will be tight. Thanks and keep up the great work." Yeah, look, we've always said 2 billion is going to be tight. I think it's going to get there. I do think it's going to get there. I even think there's a very solid chance that it even surpasses Star Wars The Force Awakens. Let me just put, because Star Wars The Force Awakens is not all that. The Force Awakens box. The Star Wars The Force Awakens really isn't much of, yeah, the Star Wars The Force Awakens is at $2.06 billion. So I think it's going to cross that $1 billion mark, and I think it's got a very solid shot of catching Star Wars The Force Awakens for the number 3 box office film of all time. I think, not likely, but I think it's even got a shot at catching Titanic. Let me just double, because I think Titanic's around 2.1 something. I could be wrong about that. Titanic is sitting at 2.18, so around 2.2. It's going to have a difficult time catching Titanic, but it could. It's never going to catch Avatar in a million years, but it could catch Titanic. So I think it's got a very good shot of becoming the number 3 all-time box office film. It's got an outside shot of becoming the number 2 box office film. It's got zero chance of becoming the all-time box office film, but yeah, it's doing, but it will be tight, because that's not a lot of room for error, right? It's still got around $400 million to go, and now the serious competition starts to kick in. Deadpool 2 shows up this week. I'm going to go see it tomorrow morning. I'm very excited. I know some of you guys have even had a chance to see it already at early fan screenings. I'm going to go see it tomorrow morning. I'll put up my review tomorrow night for it. But now the heavier competitions kicks in. Avengers Infinity War has had a pretty easy time its first few weeks. No real competition in its way. But now the competition starts. And we're going to see what happens, because we got, Deadpool opening, then the very following week we got Solo opening, and it's going to be tight. It will be tight, but I do think it's going to get there. All right, let's move on now to the next topic here. And the next one comes to us from That Queef Smelled Like Vegemite writes, have you had the opportunity to meet any of the Office cast in person? Any interesting stories? I have had the opportunity to meet several cast members of The Office. My favorite one is, of course, Steve Carell. I got to meet Steve Carell, it was a couple years ago, in Las Vegas for The Incredible Burt Wonderstone. It was for the press junket for The Incredible Burt Wonderstone. And Warner Brothers had the great idea of doing their junket in Las Vegas. Since the movie takes place in Las Vegas, do the junket in Vegas. So we went to Vegas for that. And it was great because normally when I would do press interviews, what it would be is I would go into a pre-set up room where there's all the cameras already set up, the actors already sitting in their director's chair. I would come in, sit in a director's chair. I'd got 4 minutes. They record it, hand it to me, and I go, and there's like 5 other people in the room, right? The Steve Carell one was a little bit different. It was, they just said, do you just want like 15 minutes with Steve in his hotel room? I said, yeah, can I bring a little video camera of my own? So it wasn't recorded very well. But they said, yeah. So I just had me and Steve in Steve Carell's hotel room, sat down for about 15 minutes, talked about Burt Wonderstone, talked about a couple other things as well. He was super nice. He asked me questions about being Canadian and all that kind of stuff. He's got a real soft spot in his heart for Canada. That was my favorite. No real other stories, really. I mean, most of the other Office cast members that I've had the privilege of meeting have been at like events, have been like at a world premiere of this or that, and they were there and as guests, and I'd have the opportunity to go up and meet them, and that's that. So no real interesting stories. But yeah, the one with Steve Carell is probably my favorite. All right, next one. Also comes to us from That Queef, who writes, do you think Tyrion will bite it in season 8? I do. It's tough to say. I still think there is an outside shot he ends up on the Iron Throne. He's the hand of the queen. So there is, and she has no lineage. She has no offspring other than the dragons. She has no offspring. So there is a path. Theoretically speaking, Tyrion has a path to the Iron Throne. He does. If she gets it before the end of the season and she dies and he's still her hand, he may get it. I mean, and there's different options. And of course, there's also a very good chance that he dies. He drinks and he knows things. I love the character. I hope he doesn't die, but yeah, there's a chance. There's a chance. There's an equal chance, I think, of him dying this season and ending up on the Iron Throne. So we'll have to wait and see. All right, next one comes to us from Murray, who writes, I feel your pain, John, to when a show gets canceled. My show, Designated Survivor, the one with Kiefer Sutherland, got canceled after 2 seasons. Sucks. Yeah, I like Designated Survivor, actually. It was not one of my favorite shows, but it's one of those rare shows, because I don't watch a whole ton of TV, but Designated Survivor is one of the shows that I watched. And I liked it. I did. Here's the problem with Designated Survivor. The first season was really built around... Season 1 ended with a whimper. It really did. It was an unsatisfying ending to that. I didn't think they ended that season very well. And then you get into second season, and the whole premise of the show was already gone. Like, the premise of Designated Survivor, for those of you who don't know, is that whenever there's State of the Union address or other things like that, where the entire government basically gets together in one building, there is one member of the government called the Designated Survivor that is kept off-site just in case something cataclysmic happens, because somebody needs to take over the presidency and there needs to be continuation of government. So Designated Survivor is about this guy played by Kiefer Sutherland, who's like a housing secretary, the Secretary of Housing, like some low-level cabinet member. And this one big knight of the government, he's listed as a Designated Survivor, and sure enough, the Capitol building gets destroyed and all the members of the government get killed, so he is now made president. He's a Designated Survivor. And the entire rest of the first season is about uncovering what happened. That is a storyline that should have enveloped your first 3 or 4 seasons. Instead, they really rushed through it all in their first season, and it ends badly. Like, the first season is really anticlimactic. The end of the first season is very anticlimactic. And it kind of... Now, I still enjoyed the show as a weekly check-in on that kind of stuff, but it didn't follow through well. I enjoyed the show, but they kind of sealed their own fates with the end of season 1, I thought. But anyway, that's just my thoughts on that. Akeem writes, when can we talk spoilers here or the John Campea show? About a month after, if you're talking about Infinity War, about a month after it comes out on home video. That's the rule. After a movie finishes theatrical run and it comes out on home video and it's been out on home video for a month or 2, then you can honestly say anybody who's really interested in seeing that movie, they've had plenty of opportunity to see it. As of right now, the movie's only been in theater for a couple of weeks. There are still tons of people who have not had a chance to see it. So we can talk openly with spoilers about Infinity War a month or 2 after it comes out on home video. That's when we can talk about it. I just want to stay fair to everybody who hasn't had a chance to see it yet. Queef follows up, I think doing those Game of Thrones revisited reviews is a great idea, but it might work better if you go season by season rather than individual episodes. Maybe a Twitter poll, maybe a Twitter poll between the 2 ideas. I'm not so sure, because here's the problem. Then if I'm going to do a season by season, that means I got to watch an entire season in a week, and I don't have that kind of time. So it would be easy to do one episode a week. I can watch one episode of Game of Thrones a week. I do not have the time to watch 4 episodes of Game of Thrones in a week, or 6 episodes of or an entire season in a week. So if I did it that way, then I'd be doing like one thing a month, and then there's no regularity to it, so people won't catch on to it. So I'm not sure that would work at all. Thank you for bringing up ideas, but unless you do something consistently, like weekly, if I just did one like every 3 or 4 weeks, then people don't hop on board with it, and you don't have any consistency, and it doesn't really work that way. So if I had all the free time in the world and I could watch a season of Game of Thrones every week and do it weekly, that'd be great, but I just don't have that kind of time, unfortunately. Alatius Crum writes, I am Groot. I like that. History Soup writes, R.I.P. Lucifer, damn you, soulless Fox bean counters. Well, no, look, at the end of the day, you cannot blame Fox. I know everybody right now is looking for somebody to blame. Whenever something happens that we don't like, we want to blame somebody, and we usually want to blame the man, even if there's no really rational reason for doing it. Look, Lucifer's their show. I mean, it's on their network. It's up to them what they want to have on their network or not. And if their standard for how much ratings the show needs to get aren't being met by the show, then they're completely justified in canceling it. I love this show. And I'm okay with Fox making that decision. It guts me. It's incredibly painful to me within the terms of being a film fan. I mean, large first world problems. Let's keep this in perspective. But in the terms of being a film fan or a television fan, it's gutting. It's devastating that's happened. But I don't think all hope is lost yet. I mean, I still think it had decent enough ratings that, hey, look, okay, Fox doesn't want to do it. That's totally cool. No ill will on Fox. But if Fox doesn't want to do it, there are lots of other networks out there. Lots of other networks out there. And I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we can get this done. You know what? I should just get Tom Ellis. I should see if I can get Tom Ellis, the guy who plays Lucifer, on the show. You know what? You guys should all of you, tweet Tom Ellis. What's Tom Ellis's Twitter handle? I think it's like Tom Ellis 17 or something. Yeah, Tom Ellis 17. Everybody tweet Tom Ellis. Tell him he should just come on and do a guest spot on the John Campea show to talk for 2 minutes about Lucifer and why everybody should be tweeting out Save Lucifer. Get Hulu's attention. Get the CW's attention. Get NBC's attention. Get Amazon Prime's attention. I don't care whose attention. Get YouTube Red's attention, for heaven's sakes. I don't care. Just get this show back on the air. Get this show back on the air. I love this show. I don't want it to go. And Lucifer isn't my number one favorite show on TV. It's up there. It's not but Tom Ellis's Lucifer is my favorite character on TV right now. So, I mean, yeah, I just really hope somebody else picks this up. All right. Luna Comics writes, John, why do actors have more right to express their opinion? When you said that, it feels like their opinion has more value and determines which movie is good or bad. Nobody's opinion, Luna. Nobody's opinion determines which movie is good or bad. Nobody's opinion does. When it comes to evaluating what movie is good or bad, the only opinion that truly counts is yours. Everybody's opinion is subjective, even the actors in the show. The other day when I said, hey, look, for those of you who don't know what's going on here, Luna asked a question the other day, or kind of made a statement saying that they really didn't like it when an actor says negative things about a movie that they've been in because it feels like a slap in the face to the fans of that movie. And I suggested I don't agree with that whatsoever. An actor giving an opinion about a movie, particularly one that they've been in, has nothing to do with you or me or anybody else individually. It is the actor stating their opinion. And they have every right in the world to state their opinion. Now, I think there's a professionalism. Like, if you don't like a movie you're in, don't say you don't like it when the movie hasn't even come out yet or shortly after the movie comes out. Wait a little while because you've got professional obligations. However, once a movie's been out for a while, if you're in a movie and you didn't like the movie, you should have every right to say you don't like the movie. And nobody's opinion, not the actor, not the director, not the film critic, not yours. Nobody's opinion determines if a movie is good or bad. Nobody's does. And the reason I said I think an actor in a movie has an even more of a right to express their opinions because it's their own thing. They're allowed to criticize or speak to their own thing. You know, I just don't see any wiggle room there. I mean, they're allowed to express their opinion as much as anybody else. Their opinion does not determine if a movie is good or bad. Their opinion is not a slap in the face to anybody else, because if you take personally everybody else's opinions, you're going to have a real miserable life. I mean, our lives would be very miserable if everybody's opinion we took as direct personal attacks against us personally. It just makes for a miserable life. So yeah, I really wouldn't worry about it, Loon. Look, if you like a movie, who gives a shit if the person sitting next to you on the bus likes the movie or not? Who gives a shit if one of your parents likes the movie or not? Who gives a shit if the dude serving you your meal at Arby's likes the movie or not? Who gives a shit if the house painter who comes to paint your house for you likes the movie or not? And who gives a shit if the actor who's in the movie likes the movie or not? All that matters is if you like it. And their opinions is not a personal attack on you. It has nothing to do with you. And all film is subjective, and everybody gets to have an opinion, including the people who are in it. So yeah, I still firmly stand by that. I absolutely stand by that. Thunder Knight 19 writes, considering it's one of the more violent G movies, would any studio consider doing a 3D animation remake of Watership Down? I don't see why they would. I honestly don't see any upside to doing it, so I don't know why anybody, honestly, I don't see why anybody would. I mean, it's not like it's one of the, now maybe I'm wrong. Let me check this, the Watership Down box office. Oh my God, for a second there, I thought it said 3.7 billion. I'm going to go, wait, what? No. So what would be the point? I don't know what the point would be of trying to do a Watership Down thing. I mean, look, it's completely ancient. The thing is like 40 years old at this point or something along those lines, 40, 41, 42, something years old. It made like $3.7 billion. Nobody talks about Watership Down. Why would and when the original came out, nobody watched it or cared about it. So I don't see why a studio would invest $100 million into doing a Watership Down film. I just don't see why they would do it. Chris Martin writes, John, I can't wait for the Obi-Wan movie. Also, John, I posted a picture of a hoodie I got for my birthday. It was all the Infinity War characters as Simpson characters. Oh, that's really cool. Was that on the Facebook group? I think that was on the Facebook. I haven't seen it yet, but I think I heard somebody mention it. So I'll have to check that out. That sounds really cool. I remember I would always get artists who would send me stuff of me at least 5 or 6 different times in my career. I've had artists send me drawings of me and other various co-hosts I've had over the years as Simpsons characters. And I always get a big kick out of that. So seeing an Infinity War thing with all of them in the Simpsons style, that would be pretty cool. All right. We move on here to Adam Douglas, who writes, who do you think will have a more successful career post-MCU? Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, Chris Hemsworth, Mark Ruffalo, Scarlett Johansson, or Jeremy Renner? Could be in front or behind the camera. That's a solid question. Let me think about that for a second. Who will have the bigger, more successful career after all that is said and done? First, where did my thing go? There it is. I think, honestly, Scarlett Johansson. I think Scarlett Johansson will probably have the most successful career. Look, Robert Downey Jr.'s got, what has he got? 2 movies lined up right now. He's got Dr. Doodle coming up, which I honestly don't think is going to do that great. The movie might be good. I'm curious to see it, but I don't know that the movie's going to do all that great. And then he's got Sherlock Holmes 3, which I am very excited about. So he's got 2 movies lined up. Scarlett Johansson is in a position in her career right now. She can get as much work as she wants. And everybody, it's still a thing. Every producer is lining up to work with Scarlett Johansson right now. Chris Evans doing smaller stuff. Chris Hemsworth, he's got a new Star Trek movie that he's going to be doing pretty soon. So that's pretty cool. Mark Ruffalo, he hasn't done a whole ton of a lot lately, which is really weird because his career was really on a roll. And then he joined the MCU and he kind of stopped doing as much other stuff. Although He did Spotlight, and Spotlight was awesome. He was so good in Spotlight too. Jeremy Renner is a good, solid working actor right now. But I'm going to stick with Scarlett Johansson. Seems to me like she's got the most options available to her right now. Let's see. Rob McDonald writes, why do you think Marvel is okay working with Sony on a Spider-Man movie, but not okay working with Universal for a Hulk movie? Similar situations, no? No. Very, very, very different situations. Because here's the thing. With Universal, Marvel has the production rights to Hulk. That's why Marvel can make movies with the Hulk in them. However, Universal has the distribution rights to Hulk. So if Marvel were to make a Hulk movie, Universal would get to be the distributor, and Marvel and Disney doesn't want somebody else being a distributor of one of their films. They want to distribute their own films. They don't want to split that money with them. The Spider-Man situation is completely different. The Spider-Man situation is Sony holds all the cards. Sony is the one who owns the production rights and the distribution rights to Spider-Man. Marvel has none. All the movie rights to Spider-Man belong to Sony, at least for the time being. Sony currently holds the rights to both production and distribution of Spider-Man. But John, how then is Marvel able to, because they've made a specific deal with Sony to allow the MCU to have Spider-Man in their movies for now. But see, the situation is completely different. With the Hulk, Marvel holds half the cards. With Spider-Man, Sony holds all the cards. All the cards. Without a deal with Universal, Marvel can still put Hulk in their movies. Without a deal with Sony, Marvel cannot put Spider-Man in any of their movies. You see the difference? So, like in the Universal situation with Hulk, Marvel is still free to make Hulk in all their movies if they want, as long as they don't make a standalone Hulk movie. With Spider-Man, Marvel can't even use Spider-Man in Avengers or anybody else's movie for that matter, or distribute or make anything without Sony. Sony holds all the cards. It is a completely different situation. So yeah, that's kind of why you're looking at a difference there right now. All right, let's keep going here. Next one comes to us from Ben Robinson, who writes, thoughts on Peter Jackson's King Kong? Well, here's the thing about King Kong. It is a brutally too long of a movie. That movie, and I remember, some movies can be 3 hours and it's perfectly fine. For what it was, King Kong was way too long. The entire first hour of that movie was useless. Totally useless. If you had taken, see, I like King Kong, I do. But I just like it. It's not a film I gotta watch every 2 or 3 years. I probably haven't watched it in 4 years. But if you had taken, that's a 3-hour movie that did not need to be a 3-hour movie. It's like Peter Jackson got high off the idea because he was just coming off the Lord of the Rings, right? It's like, well, those are all 3 hours plus, so I can do King Kong 3 hours plus. Not every movie should be that long, Peter. And King Kong, that entire first hour was useless. And you can feel it, especially when you start off slow. Because I'm in there for the first 45 minutes going, God, when's this movie going to pick up? I mean, that movie, literally, if you had walked into the edit room and just gone, okay, 58 minutes into the movie, slice, this is where the movie starts. 58 minutes in is where the movie starts. You would have had a much better movie. You could have started that movie with everybody on the boat going to the island and summed up in a 2-minute conversation everything that movie used the first hour of the film to communicate. You could have summed that all up in a 2-minute conversation on the boat and started with them approaching Skull Island. And then you would have had a 2-hour movie and it would have been a lot better of a movie. So I enjoy King Kong overall. Yes, I mean, the Kong's fight with the T-Rexes is awesome. As a matter of fact, at Universal Hollywood, one of the big rides or one of the big attractions is the King Kong 3D experience. And it's wonderful. You're on this tram and you got T-Rexes and King Kong jumping back and forth on either side of the tram and water spraying you and the thing's shaking, and it's awesome. But anyway, in the movie itself, the Kong fight with the T-Rexes makes that movie worth the price of admission all by itself. It's an amazing scene. One of the great action sequences, one of the great fight sequences in Hollywood history, probably in the top 20. That scene of Kong versus the T-Rex is probably in the top 20 greatest action sequences in a movie. I just love that scene. But again, you could have taken the first hour, summed it up in a 2-minute conversation, and started that movie on that boat with that 2-minute conversation, and then they arrive at Skull Island. You would have had a far more killer, less filler. You could have had a much better pace of a movie, a lot more packed of a movie. It just would have been a better experience. So while I like it, it was way too long and it could have been a lot shorter. Let's see. Patrick Kiewit writes, thoughts on Psych, one of my favorite shows ever. Never seen an episode. So I can't give an opinion on it since I've never even seen an episode. Ty Domi, one of my all-time favorite Leafs. Ty Domi writes, thank the movie gods for enabling the movie theaters for offering assigned seating. I no longer have to see people coming in late and searching for a seat. Oh God. I mean, that is one of the stupidest experiences ever. First of all, what an archaic caveman experience it is to go to a movie without pre-assigned seating. But I remember going into a movie that was going to be a big movie on opening weekend. And of course, getting there 45 minutes early just to make sure you get a seat. How dark ages. Anyway, so I'd be there, and then inevitably, it'd be the opening weekend of a new Transformers movie, or it'd be the opening weekend of a new Marvel movie, or something like that, right? And being in my seat, and then 2 minutes till showtime, and a group of 4 friends walks in and go, oh, there's no empty seats. Well, what did you think was going to happen? It's the opening weekend of a big new movie and you just walked in 2 minutes before the show started. What did you think was going to happen? And so clearly there's nowhere in the theater where there's 4 seats together. So what are we doing? They go walking up and down the aisles before the movies, and the lights start to go down. People are still kind of scurrying around looking for a seat. It's Thank the movie gods indeed, Ty. Thank the movie gods indeed that finally the modern era of pre-assigned seating has come along and we can actually get seats. Guys, I still remember X-Men Origins Wolverine was coming out and I was in Canada at the time. And at the time, no pre-assigned seatings. And I was living in Hollywood. And I was starting to go to this theater up the street from where I live called the ArcLight Theater in Hollywood. And they had pre-assigned seatings and I had gotten spoiled with it. So then I'd go back and I'm visiting Canada and they have this, there was a screening of it was the opening weekend for the first Wolverine film. And my buddy Rodney came with me, I believe. And we had to go to the theater 2 hours before the movie opened. Screw the rest of my evening. I had to go to the theater 2 hours early. And when we got there, we weren't even the first in line. There were already 50 people in line. And we had to stand out on the concrete for another hour and 15 minutes, just standing there like a bunch of idiots, waiting for them to let the line. And by the time they started letting the line in, there were hundreds of people in line behind us. And we had to go through all that stupid nonsense just to make sure we got a half-decent seat. So whenever somebody says to me, I think I kind of like not having priests, I'm like, just get out of here. That's fine that you have that opinion. I'm not trying to take that away from you, but get that nonsense away from me. I don't want to hear about that. I don't want to hear about how it's cool to stand outside on a concrete sidewalk for 2 hours for no reason whatsoever, other than the fact that I don't want to get a neck breaker seat. I paid $15 for a movie ticket. I should have the right and the privilege of knowing that I'm not going to have to sit in a neck breaker seat and I'm going to be able to sit with the friends that I bought my tickets with. That whole backwards dark ages nonsense, and it still exists. We're getting there. More and more theaters are starting to implement pre-assigned seating, and within a few years, all theaters will be that way. Great, but it still boggles my mind that in 2018, we are still so backwards that we still have some of these theaters with this archaic, ancient seating system that even like countries around the world solved that problem like 20 years ago, and yet we're still doing it. It's ridiculous to me. Sorry. The pre-assigned seating thing has been a thing to me for like 10 years. This has been one of the big push button issues to me for like 10 years. Anyway, let's move on here. Rob McDonald writes, let's see. Happy Mother's Day, John. Who is the best movie mom? And yes, happy Mother's Day to everybody out there. We got to run out. Ann and I went out of town last night. I mean, just like an hour and a half away, and took her mom out for lunch. I obviously cannot just shoot over and take my mom out for lunch because she's up in Canada. But happy Mother's Day to my mom. Talked to her on the phone the other day. So yeah, absolutely. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Thank you for everything that you do to raise us ingrateful little bastards. So anyway, who's the best movie mom? Oh, I don't know. It's a good question. I mean, if you were to ask me who's the best movie dad, who's the best movie mom, I don't know. That's a question, Rob. Honestly, I would probably have to sit down, make out a list, go through the list, try to come up with some options. Who's this? Who's that? I can't really say off the top of my head. There are many, many wonderful movie moms. Bambi's mom, for example, is a great mom. Lots of wonderful movie moms. I would have to sit down and come up with a list. Serban Andrika writes, Captain Marvel versus Thanos, similar to Soups versus Steppenwolf? No. Captain Marvel against a Thanos with an Infinity Gauntlet and Infinity Stones? No. And actually, yesterday, for those of you who didn't see, last night we did a live video of Avengers 4 theories. And we just went 2 hours talking about Avengers 4 theories. And it was a lot of fun. Somebody brought that up. It's like, do you think, one-on-one Captain Marvel could take out Thanos? And the answer to that question is no. Because, now, could Captain Marvel become the big piece to the puzzle in taking out Thanos? Yes. Oh, pardon me. Didn't get enough sleep last night. But yes, she can become a significant, maybe even the significant piece of the puzzle to taking out Thanos. However, to suggest that Captain Marvel could take out Thanos with an Infinity Gauntlet, fully powered with Infinity Stones, that makes the Captain Marvel character a completely useless character. Because if that character can do that, then what stories can you tell with that character? None. There's no stories you can tell with that character. It's far too overpowered. And Steppenwolf, like the Superman Steppenwolf thing, Steppenwolf wasn't anywhere near the power level of Thanos. He was tough. He was very tough. But he was nowhere near the power level of Thanos. And even in the DC universe, Steppenwolf is just a henchman. He's not even the main bad guy. He's just a henchman. So, no, Captain Marvel versus Thanos, not similar to me whatsoever to Superman versus Steppenwolf. To me, it's a totally different situation. Tacky75 writes, John, Paltrow said she and Iron Man have a kid in Avengers 4. I didn't hear her say that, but I wouldn't doubt it if that's the case. Like, there's already been speculation that it jumps ahead at least a year. Some people suggesting that Avengers 4 takes place like as many as 4 years after the events of Infinity War. Some people say, no, it just happens in real time 1 year later, and that would be enough time for, Pepper and Tony for Pepper to get pregnant and have a child, and that by the time we start Avengers 4, they have a kid. So, I haven't heard her say that, but there's absolutely nothing contradictory about that. Like, that does, in and of itself, it fits into what we already know about the timeline. So, yeah, it totally fits. Like, if they were to say that, Avengers 4 takes place 1 week after the events of Infinity War, well, then that becomes a problem. But as long as it's at least a year later, them having a kid, sure, makes sense. I mean, they were already setting that up in Avengers Infinity War, so there's that. Okay, Ty Domi just sends in a super chat. Thank you so much, Ty. This next one comes to us from, oops, where'd it go? Sorry, we had a bit of a jump. Rodney Hurd writes, it is defenseless. Take your money, buy those hot toys with all of your hatred, and your journey towards the dark side will be complete. Just kidding. Hope you're doing well. I don't know why. There's always a lot of people who think I have all the money in the world, and I do not. But I do want to get that. Anne has given me permission to go and buy that Thanos hot toy. I'm really seriously thinking about it. I actually, it's funny because last night I'm laying in bed and I got my tablet open and I go over to sideshow.com, look at that Thanos toy again. It's $380. I'm tempted. I'm very, very, very. I'm one of these guys. I am so frugal with money that even when I need a new laptop, I will research and hum and haw and look at it every single day for 3 months before I pull the trigger on my one. Actually, I've known for about, for a good 6 months now that I need a new computer. I need a new main production computer that I do my show on. And for 6 months, I kid you not, every single day I'm at digitalstorm.com and Cyberpower PC and iBuyComputer.com and specking out computers and looking at them and humming and hawing and waiting for sales and all that kind of stuff. 6 months have passed and I still haven't got a new machine. So yeah, it might take me a little while to actually pull the trigger and buy that Thanos toy, but here's hoping, fingers crossed. All right. Chris Fair writes, MJ or LeBron? It's right. Look, it's too early to call. It's too early to call. LeBron still has maybe 3 or 4 more years in him. I mean, he's clearly the best player on the planet. I mean, nobody with common sense denies that. Well, I mean, it's subjective. I shouldn't say that. That was unfair to say. But I mean, almost every professional basketball commentator, almost every professional basketball player, they all pretty much acknowledge that LeBron is the best player on the planet and has been for a long time. But MJ, 23, let's hold off that. Let's hold that off. I mean, what is funny, and I bring this up all the time, is that it's funny to me that the people ever even tried to compare Kobe Bryant to LeBron. Kobe Bryant is not in LeBron's stratosphere. And it's funny how the conversation, now nobody talks about LeBron versus Kobe anymore. Now the conversation is LeBron versus MJ. And now nobody even brings up, is it LeBron or Kobe anymore? It's most people realize, okay, that has been settled. That's obviously LeBron. But the question now that is always on the front page of Fox Sports and always on the front page of ESPN and always on the front is LeBron and Michael Jordan. This is my thoughts on this. If LeBron's career ended today, I would say Michael Jordan. But LeBron has still got 3 or 4 more years. I mean, he could get to the final. I mean, look, if they do beat the Celtics and they get to the finals, what will that be? The 8th or 9th year in a row that he has taken his team to the NBA finals. I mean, good gravy. That's ridiculous. But I don't know. Like I said, if it ended today, I would say Michael Jordan, but let's wait a few more years and see where LeBron ends up. Cinema Fans Podcast Show writes, Infinity War is at $1.6 billion. Will it catch The Force Awakens record? What record? The Force Awakens? Well, The Force Awakens has the record for biggest domestic box office of all time. Let me just bring that up for a second. The Force Awakens box office domestically is at 900 and something million. It almost made $1 billion just in the domestic box office alone. Forget worldwide. Just the domestic box office alone, it pretty much made $1 billion. It's 960 something billion dollars along those lines, right? I do not think Avengers Infinity War will catch that record. Actually, I feel pretty damn, oh, and you know what? Perfect timing. Box Office Mojo is down at the moment. Okay, so anyway, I feel pretty damn confident that it's not going to catch the domestic record. No, it will not catch the domestic record. But remember, The Force Awakens doesn't hold the worldwide record. Avatar holds the worldwide record. Can Infinity War catch The Force Awakens for the number 3 spot on the list? It's going to be tight, but I think yes. And I think it will. Will it catch Titanic for the number 2 spot? I don't think it will, but it's totally possible. So I think it will catch The Force Awakens for the number 3 spot all time. It will not catch The Force Awakens for the number 1 spot domestically, but it will catch it for the number 3 spot worldwide all time. I do believe that will happen, although it will be tight. So we're just going to have to hold out and wait and see a little bit. Okay, guys, just got time for a couple more. I need to cut today's just a little bit short anyway. Next one comes to us from Brody Bradley writes, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Ooh, it really depends on who you ask. I think the egg. That's just me. I think the egg. Well, where'd the chicken come from? Well, that's a great question, but I think the egg. All right. Trevor Maisie writes, hey, John, shouldn't world premieres be a few days before a movie comes out to the general public, no matter what movie it is? Wouldn't that stop spoilers and trolls? I love your show. Thank you. Well, no, I mean, they should do a world premiere whenever it's good for them to do the premiere. Look, a world premiere is not like just an average screening. Doing a world premiere is a complex thing because you need to have your director, your stars, studio executives, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's not just another screening. A world premiere is a totally different thing. It's not just some other random normal screening. You have to try to coordinate the schedule because you want to do it on a day that you can get all these big major stars together, get these directors there, get these producers there, get all these people there, get the studio executives there, all that kind of stuff, and coordinate so you can do it at night. Because, like, for instance, let's say, for whatever reason, Kathleen Kennedy is booked on the day, like 3 days before the movie comes out. Well, you can't do the world premiere of a Star Wars movie without the president of Lucasfilm there. Then another day, oh, Donald Glover can't be there because he needs to be on set. Well, you're not going to do your world premiere of, say, Star Wars, a solo, without the guys playing Lando there. So you're going to move it. So you do your premiere when you can do your premiere. And really, for the most part, a lot of spoilers don't necessarily come out of premieres per se, but nah. I think you do your premiere whenever you want to do your premiere and whenever you can. Because, like, again, premiere is different from any other type of screening because there's a lot more moving pieces that go into it. So I kind of get that. Okay, Patrick Hewitt writes, what's your most memorable movie car? For me, it's a toss-up between Bluesmobile, from the Blues Brothers, and the DeLorean. Also, thoughts on the Blues Brothers, one of my favorite movies with one of the greatest car chases. Oh, it does have one of the great, like, you think Blues Brothers and it's a comedy, so you don't think of it in terms of action sequences that the movie had. But yeah, Blues Brothers absolutely has one of the greatest car chases ever in film. I wouldn't put the Blues Brothers up there with my favorite car. I mean, there's the car that Ryan Gosling drives in Drive. There's that. The DeLorean is certainly one of them. Pick any one of your Batmobiles, could be one of them. What was this? What was the name of the car in Kick-Ass? Oh, I can't remember. That was a great car too. Again, it's another one of those things, kind of like, what's the best movie mom? That's something I don't keep that information off the top of my head. I'd have to probably sit down and come up with a list. But the cars you've come up with are really, really good cars. So yeah, good list, man. I would have to think about it. It's not something I can do off the top of my head, but those are some really good ones you've mentioned. All right. Brody Bradley writes, oops, there we go. Will we ever see a baby Campea? Oh yeah. Ann and I are going to have kids. It's the timing's got to be right though, because when I have kids, that's when we are moving back to Canada. So, not quite ready to move back to Canada yet. So yes, there's definitely going to be baby Campeas around. Make no mistake. Patrick Hewitt writes, Vin Diesel versus King Kong versus Godzilla. Make it happen. Oh, that's easy. You can have King Kong and Godzilla as a tag team in a handicap match against Dominic Toretto, and Dominic Toretto wins that fight. No sweat. All right. Let's see. Zizu writes, and I'll just take like this one and one more after this. Zizu writes, YouTube Red only available in a few countries. How can I watch Cobra Kai if I can't get YouTube Red? I'm happy to pay for it, but it's not even an option. I'm sure. Here's the thing. A lot of times, movies come out and different territories will get distribution rights, right? Like, for instance, some things are on Netflix in some countries, but they're on another network here. Like, for instance, Star Trek Discovery, right? That's a show on CBS All Access. CBS All Access is not available everywhere, so they make a distribution deal in those other markets where there's some markets where I'm sure some of you watching this show have watched Star Trek Discovery on Netflix. It's not on Netflix in the US, it's on CBS All Access, but since CBS All Access isn't everywhere, they sign distribution deals for those other markets. I would guess that Cobra Kai probably has a distribution deal for a different network out there if YouTube Red isn't available in your country. So I would look into that. Again, I'm not a fan of Cobra Kai. I didn't like the show all that much myself. I don't hate it, but I didn't particularly like it. So I haven't kept a close eye on how can people around the world watch Cobra Kai. Like, I haven't really kept an eye on that, but I'm sure there's probably, depending on where you live, there's probably some distribution deal with another distributor on some other network that you can watch it. I mean, maybe not, but I would think that there might be. So look into that. It's quite possible. All right. Let's see. Last two questions of the day. Or last three. I'll do these last three. Can you post the full uncut interview with Aaron Cummings? No, I'm not going to do that. It's just too long. It's far too long. Don't get me. Actually, this morning I started editing it, and I'm hoping that by the end of the day I can put part one up. If part one isn't up today, it'll definitely be up by the end of tomorrow. But I will not put up the full uncut thing because it's just too long. Not to mention halfway through we take a break so we can get a drink. Then we come back, get back to it, and some of it is just fluff and whatever. So no, I'm not going to just put up an hour and a half long interview when it doesn't need to be that long. I don't know how long it's going to be, but don't worry. All the best stuff is going to be in that interview. So hopefully, and guys, listen, in case you haven't heard me talk about this, and for those of you who are wondering, what's Aaron Cummings? Aaron Cummings is an American actress who has amazing stories to tell. She is the quintessential working actress. She's been in Mad Men. She's been in Nip Tuck. She's been in... She's recently was the feature co-star on Blacklist. She was just had a small role in The Disaster Artist. She's, of course, her big movie, Bitch Slap. She was one of the lead characters in one of my top 3 all-time favorite shows, Spartacus. She was in Madoff. She was in Astronaut Wives Club. She was in Pan Am. She was in Detroit 187. She's been in like 30 different TV shows. She's been all over the place, and she has amazing stories. If you just want to hear a great set of stories about what it means to be just a regular person moving to Los Angeles, trying to break into acting, and some of the crazy, terrible, great things that she's gone through. She's also a cancer battler. She's, it's an amazing, I love it. I was sitting down this morning, starting to put some of the pieces together, and I caught myself just watching it. Like, I was just watching me and her talking. It was such a great interview. It's one of my favorite things I've ever done. And I don't even know if 1,000 of you guys are going to watch it, but it is one of my favorite things I've ever done. Keep your eye for this interview with Aaron Cummings coming out. I think you're going to have a better understanding of Hollywood, a better appreciation for Hollywood, and I think you're going to fall in love with this girl. She is one of my favorite women in this town, and I cannot wait to share this interview. Oh, and by the way, she was also in my little movie called The Anniversary, but I cannot wait to share this interview with you guys. But no, I won't put up the full hour and a half thing. Like I was just complaining about Peter Jackson's King Kong. I'm not going to make that mistake, but don't worry about it. All the important stuff and all the good stuff is going to be in the edit that I put out. All right. Andrew Hogue writes, did you have a story first or want to write a book? I had a story first. So for those of you who don't know what Andrew wrote, I wrote a novel. It's called The Pride. And it was while I was shooting, the idea for the movie or for the book came to me as I was doing my movie, The Anniversary. That's when I first had my idea for it. And I wrote like a 2 or 3 page outline for the story of the Pride. And then I had to sit on it for a couple of years. And then when I started the process of writing it, it took me like another 5 years just to get it done. So I started with the idea. And after I came up with the idea for the story, I wasn't even sure it was going to be a book. Like I went back and forth. Do I try to go to pitch this idea to some studios to try to get a movie made? Do I try to, then I thought make it a graphic novel, but then that was going to be super expensive, hiring artists and all that kind of stuff, like really expensive stuff that I just didn't have the money for. And I thought, just write the book. Look, I don't know how the hell to write a book, but just sit down and write. And so that's what I did. I wrote a book and I love the story of the Pride. I love it. So, but thank you for asking. Yes, the idea for it came first, to be honest. Let's see. On to Vegas writes, perhaps Captain Marvel stopped Thanos back in the 90s, which might explain the missed opportunity comment and why she's called upon again. That's not the craziest theory on to Vegas. That's not the craziest theory. Like there's nothing to say that Thanos can't be a part of Captain Marvel. Haven't heard about Josh. I was almost going to say Josh Trank, who is the director of Chronicle. I've heard nothing about Josh Brolin being in it, but nothing says he couldn't be, so that's possible. Okay, guys, don't send in any more questions, but I will answer these last two. Let's see. Timothy Platt writes, better Carl Urban performance, Dredd or Bones? Hold on a second. What was he in Bones? Oh, the character Bones. Like the movie Dredd or the movie Bones. Like, was Carl Urban in the TV show Bones? Because I never watched that show. Oh, yeah, as Dr. McCoy. Yeah, as Bones. That was his better performance. He's great as Dredd. But, especially with the face covered, he's wonderful in Dredd. I love Dredd. But his performance as Bones in the Star Trek movie is so great because he's usually, you think of Carl Urban, he's the big tough guy. Whether you're talking about Lord of the Rings or Dredd or Thor, he's a big warrior tough guy. And then he goes on to Star Trek and plays like a role that's totally different from what you would picture him playing Dr. Hank McCoy, playing Bones. And he crushed it. I think his performance as Bones is completely underrated, so I'll actually take his performance as Bones. All right, final question of the day. After everything that happened in Black Panther with Killmonger, does T'Challa and the other tribe leaders change how Wakanda chooses their leader? Well, I don't know. You have to think that something remotely similar in the long ancient history of the nation of Wakanda, something that had to come up. Yeah, like that's the one thing. It's like everybody talks about how great Wakanda is, and Wakanda's great. However, I was like, I don't know. Like somebody asked me the other day on one of the shows, okay, if 2 MCU places were real, which one would you want to live in, Wakanda or Asgard? I'm like, Asgard. For sure, Asgard. It's a utopia, but I don't know 100% for sure that I want to live in a country where your government policy is set by ritualistic combat. And even though a douchewanger by the name of Killmonger comes along, hey, he beat T'Challa in a fight. Well, I guess he's our head of government. Like, I don't know that I want to live under that. So yeah, I think I would probably choose Asgard just for that. So I don't know if, hopefully that would make them change things, but I don't know if they will. I don't know if they'll have that because it does create interesting story opportunities, regardless of how ridiculous it is. All right, guys, that will do it for today's installment of Open Mic. Again, guys, keep your eyes open for that Aaron Cumming interview. I cannot wait to share that with you. Also, I made the announcement yesterday. Movie Club starts next Sunday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and our first movie we're openly discussing is the Best Picture winning film, Gladiator. So you got a week to get caught up. Make sure you watch Gladiator sometime this week and join us for that. Don't forget, guys, later this afternoon at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we've got Star Wars talk. Gosh, I wonder what we're going to talk about. Oh, that's right. There's this little movie called Solo just came out. They just had its premiere. Probably talk about that, all other types of stuff regarding Star Wars. Come back at 2 p.m. for that as well. All right, guys, thanks a lot for being here. My name's John Campea. Thanks for joining me, and until my next video, bye-bye.